Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Anarchy podcast. I'm your host Super, and here with me we have D0cSmurf. We're here to talk about him, his time on Anarchy, and more. So, how are you doing? How are you doing, Doc?
I am doing wonderful. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing very well. As I can tell, we're doing an episode on you, man. So, I want to start this off on your odd username. The second I saw your username, I thought, what a weird username, D0ctorSmurf. So, actually, where'd you get it from?
Well, I got it before I knew what the word Smurf meant, which means that I have been condemned since I picked this username of people asking me what my main is. So that was an unintended consequence. The Doctor comes from being a longtime Doctor Who fan of the original series, not this new age crap that all the girls on Tumblr are watching.
Yeah,
And
honestly,
the Smurf came from the fact that I used to wear a lot of blue graphic T-shirts and blue jeans in high school. So somebody just stuck them together one day and told me that that should be my gamer tag, and I've been here ever since.
Okay. Actually, I was also a fan of Doctor Who. Like season 8 till 10, I fucking loved. Honestly, David Tennant, Matt Smith, ooh, the best. But I feel like the new age, like the new season with the woman, it's gained too much like of the liberal media. Me personally, at least.
Oh, watch out! You don't plant those red pills so early.
Yeah,
You got to be
yeah.
careful there. No, I'm a fan of obviously David Tennant and Tom Baker, the fourth Doctor from the original series
Oh,
back
I
in
haven't
the
seen anything
80s.
before the fifth season. I really need to get my my IQ up and watch those.
Yeah, you're not a real Doctor Who fan until you've seen the old shows.
Oh, I'm sure of it. um, anyway, to get onto the topic of Minecraft Anarchy, how was your time on Minecraft? Like, when did you start? Like, in maybe if I'm not wrong, 2010.
2011 probably. It's a bit hazy because most of my Minecraft playing actually consisted of uh, there was a website specifically dedicated to an embedded Java version of Minecraft, like in a web page. So for the longest time, I played Minecraft without an account, like just embedded in a website. I don't think I had an official account until like 2012 to late 2011.
Yeah, actually, I remember the first couple weeks of me playing first. It was on that web browser kind of way. I'm not sure what it was called. At the time, I thought it was Minecraft
It
Beta.
was like myfreeminecraft.net. I don't remember what it was called. There were a
It was
couple of
fun at the
them.
time, wasn't it?
It was playing in a web browser. You could play it at school too because you don't have to install anything. So you
Oh
could just
yeah.
play right off the web page.
Anyway, how'd you find 2B2T and Anarchy?
2B2T specifically, I found through an IGN video. I was part of the great IGNing of 2013. It was a video called Six Amazing Things to See in Minecraft, and 2B2T Spawn was one of them. And I had just lost a administrative position, and I was kind of feeling like, I don't want to go from running a server to having to suck up to moderators again. I want some place where I can just be myself. So obviously, Anarchy was the option. The question was, what Anarchy server? And I discovered through that video that clearly the superior choice was 2B2T.
Why did you stick with 2BT? Now, obviously, at the time of maybe 2013, 2014, things have changed and there's been a lot of other servers. But back then, were there any other, Minecraft Anarchy servers?
There weren't any that didn't either devolve into pseudo TOWIE with like some form of protection, or the moderator or like the admin didn't just go crazy one day and like start opping everyone or banning people. Like 2B2T was one that was like consistently anarchy with no moderators, without things, falling apart.
Nice, nice. Speaking of moderators and freaking Housemaster's the only moderator. Do you think 2B's run, well?
2B2T is not run as well as it could be, but it couldn't be run much better. Let's go with that for an answer. There are plenty of things about the very nature of 2B2T that makes it a difficult server to administrate. Just as an example, there are literally groups of players specifically dedicated to finding exploits just for this server. So anyone who administrates this server literally has a gang of pure autism trying to ruin his day 24/7, 365.
Oh, I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it.
So I can't. I don't. I think it could be done better, but not by much.
Yeah, you know, it's an anarchy server, and it bases itself on the idea of no authority. Anyway, why'd you stick with 2B?
Honestly, I have absolutely no idea. Stubbornness, maybe. Originally, when I played on 2B, for the first year, I was just wandering around. After that, obviously, we'll get into this. I joined the Cool Kids Club, and later I based with other people. There was just always enough of an interest in like making builds on a server where it mattered that I didn't feel like leaving. One of the main reasons that I build on 2B2T specifically is because it's survival multiplayer, which adds a difficulty component, but also there's a sense of permanency to it, especially with a server this old. The idea that you make something and it's going to stick around and it could eventually be found by somebody one day.
Yeah, I mean, an aspect, a mechanic, if you will, of Minecraft Anarchy was that, you know, everything has to come crashing down at one point. Anyway, with that actually brings me to another topic I have for you: the bases you've been at. You know, the Cool Kids Club, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, the Cool Kids Club was the first group base, air quotes, that I was ever invited to. I don't remember if I was invited by Clyde or Silent Pedro, who you probably know as the Great Fit MC. Back in the day, I remember that was the furthest. Okay, I don't want to like give you fake news here. Most people had never gone that far in the Nether. Like, Nether travel and getting out that far was not necessary back then because of how small the player base was. So as the server has grown in size and more people play regularly, it becomes a function of how far you have to go to get away from spawn. So back then, like, the Cool Kids Club is only out at about 1 million. And it's ridiculously close to an axis. So, but back then it was a slog. So when somebody said, hey, we've got this cool group base, we're making builds way out here in the middle of nowhere, you want to come join us? I didn't really have any reason not to say yes. So I joined.
Do you think your time with, you know, bases and all that fun stuff, like, do you like all the sense of friendliness that bases, you know, give?
It's interesting to have a group of people working towards a single goal. Like, for example, you know about the Great Cool Kids Club Gold Farm. The Great Cool Kids Club Gold Farm that basically ruined the Apple economy for a solid 3 or 4 months. That was an interesting project. Back then, like, the Cool Kids Club almost didn't feel like a group base. I know that sounds weird. A lot of people were logging in at different times. A lot of the time, you wouldn't really see each other. You would log in and you would see that work had been accomplished, and then you would work, and then you would leave, and the next time you came back, you would see more work had been accomplished, if that makes sense. There wasn't a whole lot of periods where the entire group was on at the same time. I think we were spread across several time zones.
That's actually quite unfortunate that you guys couldn't, you know, affiliate yourselves with each other. But, like, it's good that you actually found a player base that you know, affiliated yourself with. Anyway, why base with a small amount of people? Like, if I'm pronouncing this right, Niflheimer?
Yggdrasil and Nephilimur, or
Shit.
Niflheimer, whichever one you prefer. Well, that's a bit of a story. The people that I build with on 2B2T are not actually friends from 2B2T. I didn't meet them here. I met them through a mutual friend on League of Legends. We got to know each other, and we really kicked it off, and we've been online friends forever. We've actually met each other in real life. We've hung out at each other's houses, taken plane flights to see each other on holidays.
Holy shit.
So I had been playing 2B2T, and I knew that they were both interested in Minecraft, so I kind of folded them into the location that I was at, which is what Spruceville was. and then eventually we left there to build at a new location. The tree actually started out as one of the first fully functional Guardian farms on the server, and we just kind of had this idea that we wanted to build a large unified structure, right? Like you have these big group bases, but they're kind of like disjointed, and they don't really like none of the buildings really fit together. You know what I mean? Like I'm not knocking it, but there's no central idea. The tree was this concept of what if we got 3 really dedicated people or 4 really dedicated people doing one thing and just made this big build, almost like a giant monument, right? That's what the idea was. And also, we do want our builds to last. We're not necessarily against them getting blown up, or we wouldn't build here. But the reason to keep the group small is there's less of a chance of leaks. So there's absolutely 0% chance that any of my builds could be insided, right? Because nobody's going to flip. Nobody's going to just give coordinates to somebody on Discord.
Yeah, sometimes it's better to keep the player base at a minimum. At a minimum. I had a little stroke there. But
yeah, plus it's easier to keep organized with a smaller team.
Yeah. Like you hear some things like was it Asgard 2 that had like a ton of members, and it must be a hassle.
Real hard.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's got to be that little.
The only time I'll say this, that I have had a large group of people that like were extremely cohesive was the Diggers, right? And that was the reason that so many people were able to like stick together without things really falling apart, is because there was a goal, right? Like we were headed for the world border, and then everybody got to know we'd gotten to know each other. So when we struck out to go build Point Dory, everybody had like. The tension had kind of worked its way out of the group already, if that makes any sense. So they were able to build this really cool base, and there wasn't much of a problem. I think it lasted 6 months before it got leaked, which for having 33 people
really
at it,
good. Yeah, that's really good.
Is impressive, I think.
Yeah, that's especially with like 30-something members. Jeez, well done, bravo. But in fact, most of you guys don't know this, but when I do these sort of episodes, I have this spreadsheet with topics and questions I have. And when you said, because right now, legitimately, the next topic I have was, what's your experience with the Diggers to 30 mil? So thanks for bringing that up.
Oh, it was awesome. And then eventually, as you know, once Dory got destroyed, we actually were insane enough to go dig to the corner. The corner dig was kind of more of a, like, we did it out of spite kind of thing. I think a lot less fun was had on that dig, if I'm honest. It was also plagued by a solid 4 weeks of crippling lag that really sucked the life out of the project. But we did make it, and I think that's probably one of the cooler things that I've done. Is take a group of people not only all the way to the border, but another 3.75 million in the nether to the corner. So
yeah, honestly, that's pretty damn impressive. on 2 points, the corner and then the side. It's something to be in awe of, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. What was so crazy about it is the world border just became banal. Like it was just normal. Like we'd pop up exit portal to put down a spawner and get a fresh pig, and you'd be like, "Oh, there's the world border. No big deal." you know what I mean? Like it just became something that you got used to. There's this giant blue wall of this impassable blue wall of death on one side of you every time you make a portal.
Yeah, it's really good to have those sort of achievements and to be proud of yourself and the things that you've done. And speaking of some of the things you've done. In servers, you've administrated Elementcraft, am I right?
Yes, that. I mean, how much detail do you want? Do you want the Cliff Notes version, or?
Let's not an essay long piece of information, but not Cliff Notes.
Before I came to 2B2T, one of the first servers I played on was a server called Elementcraft. It was a PvP pseudo faction server, and we're talking old school factions, not the crazy like top faction wins $1,000 and these massive obsidian bricks that are hideous to keep people from TNT bombing into. Like old school factions where you just like gain up resources and build gear and go to a PvP arena and fight.
Yeah, just tank your shit.
right? I played there for a long time. They got about 60 players concurrently, so there'd be 60 people on a day, and their spawn zone, their teleport area, was kind of bad. So jokingly, I messaged one of the moderators and I said I can make a better one in like a day. And for some reason, they spun up another world because they had a bungee corded server where they could
It's
just
like bet,
spin up a
bitch.
multi-world. Yeah. You think you're good? Okay, fine. And they gave me world edit permissions in this little world, and I built them an entire new spawn. They loved it so much that they like put it into effect the next day, changed all the warp points, and over the course of the next month, I worked my way up to basically head admin in charge of all the moderators and taking care of, making sure people's tickets got resolved.
I think that's the biggest example of the know you. Like, build a better one. Know you, bitch.
Yeah, no. So I worked my way up to head admin, and I made some suggestions. And this was before the EULA change, so people would donate for permissions. So I basically gave them some examples of how they could restructure the donation tiers. And within another month, they'd gone from 60 concurrent users all the way up to around 250 concurrent users. And a month after that, they're up to 350. I think they were up to one of the largest multi-world servers at the time. This was in mid 2012, I think. Don't quote me on that. And then tragedy struck. I had to leave because I was starting college, and I just couldn't sink the time into, managing the moderators underneath me and closing tickets and all that stuff. So I picked my best moderator. I told the owners, this guy can keep things running. Well, one of the two owners, I guess, got into an argument with him. They de-ranked him, right? And they took over control of the server themselves.
Big oof.
Within a week and a half, they were down to like 200 concurrent users. Like, they basically torpedoed the progress that had been made under the changes that I implemented. They did. They sabotaged their own server. And before it completely imploded, they actually sold their domain name and, by extension, the server to what was called the Cowcraft network. So basically how this worked was they got a lump sum from Cowcraft to bungee cord the Cowcraft hub server to their server and allow users to move items over to Cowcraft worlds, and then they shut down the old domain. So essentially, Cowcraft bought Element Craft's users.
Wow.
Is what happened.
That's quite a story.
I was so devastated that I just didn't know what I was like. I lost complete interest in Minecraft because I didn't want to. After having all that power and doing all that work, you don't just want to go back to having to suck up to moderators again, right? Like, it's a huge buzzkill.
Yeah.
So I figured if I was ever going to play Minecraft again, I wanted there to be somewhere that I didn't have to answer to anybody. Which is why I went at Anarchy and then eventually found 2B2T, and the rest is history. So that's the Element Craft story.
Element Craft stories with Doc.
That's as quick as I can give it to you.
Okay, so we now know that you have, experience with other servers, but would you play other quote-unquote clones of 2B2T, like Constantium, AMC, 4B, 9B, and any of that fun stuff?
When, I think it was before Rusher showed up, when the server was nearly dead. Fit talked about this in one of his videos. When the server was basically on life support, I did for a month go over to Constantium. This is when they had nether roof access, so I had a base out in like the millions of millions that I can't even get. I can't get to it anymore. I don't have the ability to go there because the roof access is cut off. If I played any other Anarchy server, it would probably be Constantium, but I don't have any real desire to go over there. If 2B2T were to implode tomorrow, right, and never come back, that would be where I would go. I think that would be where a lot of us went. But pretty much I just play 2B2T.
Would you ever think of any other servers other than Constantium, like I've already previously stated, AMC, 9B9T, and all those other ones? Like,
I have a weakness for the medieval and missile defense minigame servers. I would probably play some of those, but I don't think I'd go to any other Anarchy clone. No, I would probably just go to Constantium. I've heard, I don't know specifically who owns it, at the few months that I spent on it a couple of years ago, it was administrated relatively well. I know that it's got some lag spike issues now, but it seems relatively stable and like a decent place to build.
Yeah, I mean, there's always backups for Anarchy, you know. Um, to do with Anarchy and servers in general, do you consider yourself a lone wolf because you're not, you know, if, to my knowledge at least, you're not in many groups?
Uh, I mean, I've got plenty of friends, like people that I know, other old fags on the server and stuff like that. Like I was a spawn mason for a while. Um, I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a loner, no, because I have that, and then I also have the people that I build with. So, I wouldn't. It's not like I'm purposefully jumping out there and seeking out groups to build with, but I think 2B2T played properly, there should be a couple people that you know and hang out with and kind of enjoy the server with to really
That
get
you
the
would
full experience.
affiliate yourself with?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand. Do you think you'll ever join like a proper group?
Probably not. I find that the larger the group gets, the more it gets pulled into like senseless drama, and I just don't need that in my life. I don't need extra drama from a Minecraft server, if you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah,
and
I
it's
get you.
it's weird. It's weird. Like, it's 2B2T. We always joke that 2B2T is like a microcosm of politics because you have people like literally running corporate espionage. Like, like there are people who try to like get their hands on source code for other people's 2B2T hacks, and people who try to like inside discords, and it's like the only
Wink,
thing I
wink,
could
Russia
compare it
hack.
to. Yeah, the only thing I could compare it to is like the corporate espionage of like EVE Online, where you unironically have like grown men who have alt accounts in other like factions trying to get news out of them to like as like uh to help their group make decisions. It's weird. I don't want to get wrapped
Yeah,
up in too much
okay.
of that kind of stuff.
There's a lot of agendas on the server.
Yes, there you go. That's a great way to put it. There's a lot of agendas on the server that I
Yeah,
don't necessarily
whether
care
it be
about.
passive aggressive ones, by Russia hack, by Russia hack. I'm sure John's gonna suck my dick for saying that. I'm joking.
Dr. Smurf does neither confirm nor deny the opinions of Super. Speak for yourself, good sir.
Okay. Anyway, actually, Doc, I wanna, shed some light, if you will, over the history over the Sixth Incursion Discord and all that fun stuff. And to give his input, we also have Blaze Warfare to edge in because he was there. Anyway, so Doc, what was the actual story behind that?
Okay, so essentially someone was posting docs. I'm not 100% sure who it was. Blaze, if you maybe know the username or what it happened.
So somebody, I think it was from like Infrared or Armor Smith. We banned like Armor Smith, and they got really triggered, and they came back and started posting people's doxes, and yeah, that was a pretty fun situation.
So you banned them, and then you said there was a circumvention of a ban also. They came back. So what happened? I had seen this account that had apparently circumvented this ban later in the evening when there were no mods on. And I am not a fan of necessarily people posting docs in Discords. So I actually took the user ID and the message ID and filed a formal report with Discord. Now, what I expected to happen was the user would be banned. Instead, what happened was not only was the great Henry absolutely destroyed, his account completely deleted.
Oh my god.
His account completely deleted, and the Spawn Masons Discord now being headless because it had no owner. The entire 6th Incursion Discord was exterminatus from orbit by Discord admins and completely blown up, along with all of the cords that were in it, all of the permission settings that had been set up. all of the images
Holy shit.
and pictures that
And there was a funny story with the images. Everybody thought the Discord got terminated because an individual posted a video of a man fucking a rat.
Oh god.
What the? How would that even
too.
work? How would that? Okay, that's got to be either one tiny dick or one monstrous rat.
No.
Rats can be pretty big.
A rat with a guy's dick. The point
Oh,
is, we
fuck.
thought the Discord got reported for bestiality, when in reality it was Doc Smurf. So Doc
God.
Smurf will forever be
Okay,
known
but
as the guy
this is it.
on the
So I go to sleep, right? And I wake up the next day with like a bajillion messages to join the, like, people talking about how Discord got banned, to join the Discord. Everybody's in voice chat, be like, how could this have happened? Blah blah blah. And finally, when it comments down, I have to meekly raise my voice and be like, guys, I think it might have been me. And everybody blows up in the chat. They're like, Doc, what have you done? And I said I reported the Discord docs, and Henry absolutely lost his shit. Doc, how could you have done this? How could you? And I basically had to go on an apology tour for like the entire day, being like, I didn't try to get the Discord banned. I didn't try to get Henry banned. I just wanted this person's docs to not be on the server because there were no moderators. So now I am somewhat lesser known as the man who destroyed the 6th Incursion Discord.
One-man wrecking team.
Completely by accident. I had done what so many individuals had tried to do for years, which was blow up an incursion, and I did it with a single report.
That was great.
You know, that's just the power between a report on Discord of all places.
I actually got 2 accounts recently terminated because they made SWAT threats. It's so easy to do.
Yeah, the mods were doing it for free that night. Let's say that.
Yeah. Now, how long have you been playing Anarchy for? Like, just a rough estimate.
Just since 2013.
Okay, great. So, how do you think 2B has how do you think Minecraft in general has evolved since your first joining in 2010, 2011?
Oh gosh, you could write an entire doctoral thesis on the changes that Minecraft has experienced.
Doctoral by Doc.
Oh yeah, there's I guess it's weird. In the beginning, there was much more of a smaller servers with friends, like you just have people connect to your desktop whenever you wanted to play, and then servers became more corporate and they started selling things and taking donations. Factions became a thing. There was then suddenly there was a great spike in minigame servers, and then there was the grand crash when the EULA changed and you couldn't sell permissions anymore. There's so many different ways to answer that question. But at the heart of it, the idea that Minecraft is a community-run game that is as good as it's as good as people are willing to make it, that has never changed. There's been trends that have come and gone, but I think the core of it has always really stayed the same.
Yeah, nothing but a good old block game, like Roblox. Best game.
It's at the end of the day, it's just a block game. It's the important thing to remember.
Yeah, a lot of people get real life semantics and all these petty drama involved.
You have people selling 32K stacked boxes for $100 to 12-year-olds, and I'm sitting here rubbing my eyes. Like,
Gotta get my mom's credit card.
Is this real? Is this real life? What's going on?
Yeah, some things are crazy and some things are justified, but a lot of times it's it depends. It depends, at least in my opinion. But how do you think 2B2T has evolved since 2013 when you first joined?
Again, there's a lot of ways to answer that question. I think before a large influx of people, like, let's put it this way, 2B2T has never had as many people on it as it has currently, right? If you look back in the server's history, at max, the most you were hitting was like 60, maybe 70, right? And those were regulars, people who all knew each other, right? And new visitors to the server would normally show up for a couple of hours, disappear, and never come back. So back then, it was almost like kind of like a club of maybe like 150 people that signed on at various different times, who like really knew each other and who kind of had certain agreements amongst themselves. Like there used to be two rules on 2B2T, the unwritten rules, which were you never grief signs and you don't screw with the highways. Both of those rules are dead. Like, and when I mean
no rules
when I
for
mean
sure.
when I mean rules, I mean like for years it was agreed upon that nether infrastructure was off limits and people's signs were off limits. The vast majority of the time, people would not grief those, and the people who did were known for doing it. Like there are hundreds of people who have grief bases on 2B2T, but there's a reason that there are a few names that are known, like Jared, for example, right? It's because even way back when, he would break the rules. Like, he would blow up infrastructure. He would get rid of people's signs. Like, he would do the things you weren't supposed to do. Nowadays, that's not really a thing anymore. Everybody does absolutely whatever they want to, and there's so many people that nobody's name really stands out anymore.
Yeah, it's just one jumble of
It's one jumble of people. That's why, if you ask a lot of the old pals, they'll say that anybody after June can never be anything other than a June pal, right? They can never really make a name for themselves.
Mm-hmm. It's only for the exceptional. It's only exceptional people who really get a name for themselves.
And I think there's also, if I could say one more thing, there was this big mental shift, not immediately when Rusher joined, but after the aftermath, when we realized that a large number of people were not going to leave. It was the first time that a huge influx of players had happened and they weren't going away. There was this feeling that the people who had been there for the years before had built the server to what it was, and it had essentially been raped by this YouTuber who came in and took advantage of it with absolutely no respect for what was here previously, and that it was never going to go back to the way it was. And there was, I think, existential sadness about that. Perhaps deserved, perhaps not. I leave it up to the viewer to decide.
Yeah, it's definitely up to them, you know. But I think that's the final questions of mine to you. Do you have any questions for me or the community? I'll let the people who are listening in to ask some questions in chat. If you would like to be part of the discussion, don't forget to join the Anarchy Podcast Discord. Links will be in the description. And I'll just let you guys.
I see the general chat has found the video. I think it's right there. IGN 6 most amazing things to see in Minecraft. You can put that in the low bar if you want. If people want to check it out.
Yeah, definitely. So a question from Diggin Builder says, back then, if a new player would join 2B2T, would people try hard to get them into the server and set them up? Like, do you think in the olden days, 2B2T would have been harborous to new people?
There were two minds of this. Before the Russianing, right? So let's say you had a new player that joined in like 2014, for example. Spawn was not really patrolled because there weren't that many people to patrol it, right? So the general concept was if a user got their way out of Spawn and they made a base for themselves, they got themselves established and they stuck around, they were generally left to their own devices. They weren't really messed with. There was a certain group of people, I can't really give it names, but there were two schools of thought. Some people, if they saw a new player at spawn, they would kill them. And some people, like E to the G back in the day, in 2013, 2014, if he saw new people, sometimes he would gear them. He would like give them food and give them gear and just tell them to go off somewhere and do something. And he'd say, like, if I see you again, I'll kill you, right?
Yeah.
Generally, I wouldn't say that the server welcomed new players, but it wasn't actively trying to crush them. Generally, if you got yourself out of spawn and you lurked for long enough and slowly kind of introduced yourself, you were pretty much welcomed into the fold without much resistance.
Got it. Thanks for your input. A question from Boo Boo Baloney says, "What do you think of 1.14? What do you think it's going to bring for Minecraft and 2B in general?"
Oh gosh. I mean, each time there's a new patch, obviously it reinvigorates the player base. Because it's a new shiny thing. People leave their old bases to generate new chunks. I think that the update, well, we have to get the update to 1.13 first, obviously. Once the 1.13 and 1.14 update happens, I think it'll be just like every previous update. It'll
Whatever
spike,
year that comes.
yeah, it'll spike users, it'll increase engagement, new groups might even form, new bases will be created. It's not so much about the individual update itself. If the update has some sort of terrain change or new feature that it adds, so like 1.13 is changing ocean generation, right?
Yeah.
Anything that changes generation will increase server activity because everybody wants to move. Everybody wants to make a new base, right? And making a new base kind of gets rid of some of the burnout. Because if you're at an old base for long enough, like you built everything you want to build, you kind of run out of things to do. So I think that this 2013, 2014 will have the same effect previous updates did, where it reinvigorates the player base.
Oh, okay, got it. So like it adds new things, like a new hook.
It adds a reason to keep logging, to not keep logging in, but to log in more frequently. And it also sparks the creation of new bases, which sparks the creation of new groups. That's generally how I look at updates.
Oh, thanks for that. UGR Fiesta asks, overall, the concept of newbies and veterans were thrown around a lot during the Russia War. Were these terms used before the Russia War, happened?
Yes, they were. Now I'm using PAL in place of another term that you probably can figure out. There are new PALs, mid PALs, and old PALs. Generally, people didn't refer to themselves by their age, how long they'd been on the server, but they were terms that were known. They were established terms with a set definition, and a lack of seniority would still be used as an insult, but it was way less important back then.
Got it. A question coming from Blaze Warfare asks, what are your 3 favorite cheeses?
In rank order, my favorite cheeses are American, mozzarella, and cheddar. And a close fourth is, I used to call it monster cheese when I was a kid. I believe it's called Munster cheese. I don't actually know how it's said, but that would be fourth.
Okay, got it. Now a question from Discord user Deck. A question for Smurf. Are you a believer of the theory that house is multiple people and that the server is being sold off?
I do not believe that the server has ever been sold, or that it is being sold off. And if it was, it would have to be sold to somebody who would be willing to keep up appearances and not attempt to leverage it, right? It would have to be somebody who wanted to buy it for the sake of owning it and run it exactly how it's being run. Otherwise, people would leave, right?
I mean, there have been conspiracies and all these scandals of Russia in the past, but
there's been conspiracies of everything. The only thing that holds water is the idea that the Q server was, for a time, hosted on the back end of the Archon. I can believe that, and it makes sense, because essentially it helped stem the flow of incoming users, which the 2B2T just couldn't handle. But that's not really selling out. That's basically Russia kind of giving a way to solve the problem that he created, which I think was a nice thing to do. And he probably skimmed some money off the top when it came to priority queue, so he probably got a little bit of change for it. But I can't confirm this. I'm generally of the idea that Housemaster is kind of like the Dread Pirate Roberts, right? Like, it's a title. I think it has been held by multiple people, but I think it's been held by people who are actually know each other. If that makes any sense?
That have the same goal and they're pretty much the same person but different heads.
Yeah, I think if I had to guess, I wouldn't say that more than 4 separate people have ever worked on the server. I think probably at most the server has changed hands twice. I don't have anything to back this up other than the frequency of responding to messages, the way that answers are worded, the way that certain things about the server have been handled, changes in payment processors, things like that.
Yeah, and
But
even you can see like different things like the old house maybe a few years ago wouldn't give a shit about different like dupes if I'm not mistaken, but like now he's getting rid of dupe stashes. Actually, a video to that called the Housemaster's Mishaps will be in the description. But go on, Doc.
I don't know how House. This is a misconception. The idea that House never gave a shit. House has always at least cared at some level. Otherwise, he just would have stopped bothering to get donations and renew the server. If he really didn't care, then the server wouldn't exist. And also the idea that it's a change in his behavior to get rid of dupes and dupe stashes is also not true. Because House, even way back in the day, did use World Edit to fix things that would break the server, right? So, for example, stopping the dupe is a priority because it put a lot of stress on the server itself. It was causing TPS issues. And deleting large dupe stashes was important because the plugin that he uses to check chests for illegal items was being negatively impacted by a large number of entities inside of an individual chunk. So if he found a large enough dupe stash, he would delete it for optimization reasons, not because the person had duped. If that makes sense.
Okay,
So
I got it.
this isn't necessarily a complete change in House's behavior, but definitely there's been a lot more proactiveness, if I could
There's
say
been
that,
somewhat of a switch.
of an uptick in caring. We'll word it that way.
Okay, now another question, actually 2 questions. Now, he's going to kill me if I didn't do this, but John asks, do you have Rusher Hack?
No,
Are you going to get it?
I don't know what that is.
I'm sure he will be enraged that you said that, but it's pretty much his client.
Oh, I, as a rule of thumb, do not use any clients that have been developed by people who have played 2B2T or were specifically developed with 2B2T in mind.
So not Glow, not any of that stuff?
None of that stuff. I'm even wary of using Baritone because the person who made Baritone makes references to FitMC in his GitHub.
Oh, okay.
But people, you have a spectrum of individuals on 2B2T. There are those who really don't care, and there are people who are super paranoid. I'm more towards the paranoid end of the bar. So I tend to steer away from community-created solutions, let's put it that way, for fear of security issues.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Okay, so yeah. So another question from UGR Fiesta. What do you think will happen to dupe stashes in the future with House and his world edit, and will there be more dupes found? I'm not sure.
There will always be more dupes. Always. There will never be a point in Java Edition Minecraft where there is not a dupe. It just comes down to, is it patched by Spigot currently? And is it a 0 day? In other words, is it a dupe that nobody's seen before and couldn't have been patched, right?
Yeah.
There will be large dry spells of dupes. Sometimes there will be a great dupe renaissance like we've had in the past year, where there's just been multiple dupes together, back to back.
Yeah, just one more OP than the other.
As far as dupe stashes, I would advise people of the following: if the plugin that handles illegal items is not changed, if it continues to function the same way it functions now, and you don't want your dupe stash to get dumpstered, make dupe stashes that are spread outside of render distance. You don't necessarily have to make them thousands of blocks away, but kind of break your items up a little bit so you're not loading everything at once. And if you do that so you're not negatively impacting the server, House will probably leave you alone.
Okay, thank you so much for your
that
input.
would be my advice.
Okay, well, anyway, thank you so much for your input. I think that comes to the wrapping up of the questions of the community for you, Doc Smurf. Do you have anything to say?
No, not really. Just continue to enjoy your time here on 2B2T. I would plead with people to not purposefully attempt to ruin the experience for others. I'm not against griefing, obviously. I'm not against killing people at spawn. But if you have some dank exploit that allows you to fly at 1 billion miles per hour and crush the server's TPS, perhaps think a little bit before using it.
Yeah.
If that because at the end of the day, the server needs to be playable in order for there to be an Anarchy server. And I get some people get their kicks out of like crashing the server and destroying things and making it unplayable. And those people are never going to really heed my warning. But if you find something really good like a travel exploit that lags the server or that negatively impacts performance, use it sparingly, not only for the sake of everyone else, but so that you can keep it longer and it doesn't get patched. That would be my advice to people who are currently playing.
Okay, well, anyway, thank you for those last wise words. Thank you so much for watching the Anarchy podcast. If you'd like, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. If you'd like to be part of the discussion, make sure to join the Anarchy podcast Discord. I've been your host, Super. Here with me, we've had Doc Smurf.
Hey.
And we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Fuck my friends, they're gone. They all left one by one. And now the summer's done. They don't need no more fun.